Hi, I'm Mike, founder of GoodBed. Today we're going to show you the iSleep Signature mattress. This is an adjustable air mattress, and you may have heard of companies like Sleep Number that make adjustable air mattresses, but you may not be aware of alternative companies that also are in that space. And this is one that takes a very thoughtful approach, I think, to the design of their mattress that is really purposefully designed to mitigate some of the inherent shortcomings that an air mattress design can have. And they've gotten phenomenal results in terms of the reviews they've received from GoodBed readers. So I'm excited to show it to you. Stick around. So since I just mentioned some of the inherent design challenges of an air mattress, I think I should start by digging in a little deeper on what I mean by that and how iSleep has mitigated those challenges in the design of this mattress. Specifically, where I think air mattresses can struggle is in delivering proper spinal alignment to the sleeper. And this is because if you think about an air chamber, a single air chamber, I like to think of it as a raft that you might put on a pier. I grew up near lakes. So, you put a raft on a pier. If you fully inflate that raft, you'll be supported, right? It'll be rock hard, this raft, but you will be supported. If you start to deflate that raft, even just a little bit, your heaviest part of your body, which for all of us is our hips, will sink in, and the air will be displaced to your head and feet, which further accentuates the fact that your hips are sinking in deeper. The more air you take out, the more V-shaped your body gets. So that's just kind of an inherent characteristic of a single chamber of air, and it's hard to get around that. So when you have an air mattress, inherently what you end up choosing between is either I inflate it kind of all the way, in which case, great, I don't have that problem, but then again, I'm not really getting a whole lot of personalization or customization, or for that matter, I'm not getting a whole lot of real conformance necessarily because it's a very rigid surface. Or I start to deflate it, and then I am basically sacrificing in terms of the spinal alignment in the way that I described. Now, at the same time, the air mattress design does have some great advantages. Most specifically, it does allow you to change the characteristics of your mattress dynamically with simply the push of a button. And it also conveniently allows you to personalize each side of the mattress by simply having independent air chambers on each side. And those two advantages do have value. So essentially, the inherent mission of iSleep was, how do we give those advantages to sleepers while mitigating the potential disadvantages of the air mattress design overall? So how do they do that? Well, I see three aspects of this design that I think do help mitigate this potential issue. And the first is that they put a layer of coils underneath their air chamber. There are 2.5-inch tall mini coils. And what does that do? Well, let's go back to my example of the raft on the pier. In the case of a raft being on the pier, if you think about the raft having two surfaces, a top and a bottom, the top of the raft is the only surface that can move. The bottom of the raft is pressed up against the wood pier, okay? So when you sit on the raft, or lie on the raft, I should say, and your heaviest part is your hips, that's gonna sink. And as we talked about, but when the top surface goes down, it forces more air to the head and the foot, which accentuates the V shape, which is not what you want. When you have coils underneath the raft, it basically allows the bottom of the raft to now be mobile as well. So not nearly as much air has to get forced to the head and foot, because basically we're not having to squeeze the top and bottom of surfaces together as much because the bottom can move. So that's one aspect. And in addition, the coils also allow other parts of the raft to compress. So for example, if you are a side sleeper with broad shoulders, the raft might be able to compress underneath those coils underneath your shoulders, which again helps to kind of mitigate some of the displacement of air. So that's the first thing that they did. The second thing they did was above the coils. They used 5 inches of latex above these coils. And latex is a very buoyant, very supportive material, and it's also very pressure relieving. One of the drawbacks of air mattresses that I didn't talk about was that, the air chambers themselves, they're pretty firm, they're pretty hard, particularly when they're highly pumped up. But even when they're not, you're still talking about, if you, again, go back to my raft on a pier, if this is a raft that's made of kind of firm canvas, if you think of it like that, it's not going to have the same kind of pressure relieving qualities as even springs would have. But in this case, they put 5 inches of latex, which can really help not only provide supportiveness, but also add pressure relief. So that is the second design feature here. And the third is really applied more selectively and really through more of a personal consult. A lot of the people who order these mattresses tend to call the company beforehand and speak to someone. And one of the benefits of doing that is they're able to ask you questions that helps them ascertain what specific characteristics are going to be most useful for you and help you kind of personalize the product for your needs. And depending on what they learn from you, they may determine that you'd benefit from this third feature, which is essentially like a piece of flexible foam. You could think of it like a section of a yoga mat. And it's applied just over the heaviest part of your body, like the center third of the mattress, from your mid-thighs to your mid-torso. And it's glued to the top of the coils directly underneath the air chambers. And basically what that does is it reduces some of the independent movement of the coils and helps that coil unit perform, recruit support more broadly from across that whole area of the mattress. So it can still go up and down together, but it will go up and down in a little bit broader section than it would, if the coils can move completely independent from one another. So that again is not something that they believe is beneficial for everyone. In fact, they've learned it can even be counterproductive for some people. And that just goes to show the complexity of this. Trying to mitigate this problem is not even something that can be done necessarily with a universal solution for all people. And they've learned this over the course of really doing this for 25 plus years. So obviously a lot of thought and even real research has gone into the development of this product over that time. So at this point, I should probably back up just a smidge and talk about how this mattress actually works. I mentioned the concept of an air chamber. In this mattress, there are actually 2 air chambers, one under each side of the mattress. They kind of bump right up against each other, so there's nothing in between them. And they're well down in the mattress, so there's a continuous 5 inches of latex going right across the top of them. So you're certainly, I don't think, unless you have them inflated to very different levels, you're not going to be even able to tell when you go from one air chamber to the other. But the air chambers are controlled independently. Through each side has its own remote, and essentially the remote allows you to inflate or deflate. And you can inflate one at a time, and when you do inflate, it is pretty quiet, I gotta say. I mean, you can hear it. I can hear it from here. I'm not sure if it's being picked up by the microphone, but it's not loud. And it's fast, I would say, too. It's particularly fast, surprisingly so, on the inflation. Maybe even more so than on the deflation. And basically, it will provide you a readout of a number, and that number is one that can help you remember what types of settings you prefer, which work best, whether that's how it works best for sleeping in a certain position, or maybe even how your preferences may change over time. But that number just becomes something that you can recall, and you can even store in the mattress to make sure that you can, with one touch of the remote, get to your number. In the case of iSleep's design, the numbers run from 0 to 60, 60 being the firmest, 0 being the softest, and 0 is very soft. It's like very low inflation level. It's also worth noting that the number is going to be based on the amount of pressure in the chamber, so that ultimate fill level, the actual amount of air that's being put into the chamber, is going to vary depending on who's on the mattress. Meaning a 10 for you will have a different amount of air than a 10 for me, and certainly than a 10 when no one's on the mattress. So just bear that in mind. You don't just press this thing before you get in the mattress to set it. You get in the mattress and then you press to say, now take me to my fill level. Now, in terms of the feels that are available as you make these adjustments, I want to really help contextualize this. And I think it's important to understand the distinction between 2 different feel metrics that we measure at GoodBed. One is softness, and we characterize softness as the kind of experience that you have on the mattress as you interact with it. That kind of like, especially with your lighter, more sensitive parts like your elbows and your hands and your legs. What do you feel kind of up at the surface of the mattress? That does it feel plush or does it feel very firm? And Then the second is, how deeply do you sink into it? Do you get that more sleeping in your mattress, or do you get that floating above it? And how closely does it conform to your body, and how much does it accommodate the curves of your body? We call that cushioning depth. And those are two separate things, and they don't always go hand in hand. For example, on a memory foam mattress, think of a classic memory foam mattress. The surface of that is almost like wet concrete. I mean, it is or like almost dried concrete. And it's very rigid, and yet as you sit on it for a while, you will eventually sink in very deeply, and it will conform very closely to your body. So that's an example of where cushioning depth and softness are kind of opposite. And other cases, you might have them go hand in hand. The softer it is, the deeper you sink in. This is kind of one where they're a little bit at odds, in the sense of you can make these adjustments and it will very much affect the amount of cushioning depth, but it doesn't really affect what we would characterize as the softness, because the softness is really being determined by those 5 inches of latex up at the top of the mattress. And that's not going to change as you affect the amount of air in those chambers. So what will be affected is the degree to which you are sleeping in the mattress versus on the mattress, the degree to which it can accommodate your curves, and the degree to which you get that hugged or cradled sensation versus that kind of more floating above your mattress sensation. So just to give you an idea of the range here and what we experienced, we tested this at 3 different inflation levels. We picked 10, 30, and 50. So 30 being the kind of middle level where iSleep, if you ask iSleep where to start, they would probably say start at 30 and then figure out what adjustments you want to make from there. So we picked that one, and then we picked 10 and 50 just to kind of represent something very much on the soft side and very much on the firm side, though not necessarily the extremes. What we found is that at 30, really at all 3 levels, we would characterize the softness as a medium firm on our softness spectrum. So again, we go from 1 being the firmest to 9 being the softest, 5 being a medium. This would be like a 4, just 1 notch firmer than medium, and we call that medium firm. And that's really pretty much going to be constant whether you're at 10 or 50 or anywhere in between. Maybe you'd vary like a couple decimal points, somewhere between there, but it wouldn't be enough to change you from a 4 to a 5 or a 4 to a 3. So that's really going to be a function, again, of that latex, which isn't changing as you inflate or deflate your chamber. Then you have the amount of cushioning depth, and we found that at 50, I would characterize it as maybe like a 4. Like, I'm definitely more floating above my mattress. I'm a little bit less in the mattress, whereas when I get to 30, that midpoint level, I'm probably about a 5. I'm about, just right in between, kind of sleeping in my mattress and sleeping on my mattress. And when I got down to 10, it was a pretty dramatic difference. I was definitely what I would characterize it as deeper cushioning, maybe like a 7 even, or something like that, where I definitely felt like it could really accommodate my shoulders quite significantly. I had much more of that hugged or cradled sensation when I was lying on my back. So you do have a pretty wide range of cushioning depths available to you, and naturally, people have very different body shapes, preferred sleep positions, as well as weights, as well as preferences. And that's how you end up with people ending up preferring different numbers and finding that different numbers work better for them. And that's the principal thing that you can control with your remote. And I should probably also add that while the characterizations I just provided were based on my own personal experience and my more manual assessments, we also did test this product in our lab to verify what I experienced. I mean, we did find a similar set of conclusions in terms of the degree to which both softness and cushioning depth varies across these settings. And by the way, to the extent that you see these black marks on the cover of the mattress, that's a byproduct of that scientific testing. It's not because iSleep shipped this to us with Sharpie on the cover. And while we're talking about feel, I might as well add that the other 2 characteristics that we test as it relates to the feel of a mattress that are neither better nor worse type of characteristics, they're simply a personal preference type of characteristic, is memory feel and bounce. And first and foremost, there's no memory foam in this mattress, and in fact, the materials used in this mattress are almost the opposite of memory feel in that they're all very quick responding materials that have a good degree of responsiveness to them. Latex is a very quick responding material up on the top. The coils obviously on the bottom have springiness to them, and even the air chamber, when it is more inflated, kind of has, you can imagine, some bounce to it as well. So naturally there's no memory feel in this mattress whatsoever, and as it relates to bounce, which we measure at multiple levels of the mattress, like from the surface down to the deep bounce and also in between, I would say that overall this is a mattress that has an above average amount of bounce, and we would say that probably that is particularly true when you have the chambers at high levels of inflation, like when we had it at 50. It's less true at 30, and even less so when you're down at an inflation level like 10. So that kind of covers the feel characteristics of the mattress, which we've talked about being really preference-based and not universally better or worse. But we've also covered the fit characteristics, fit being very personal, and we've talked about how different settings here will allow you to personalize this mattress and customize it to what you need from a spinal alignment and pressure relief standpoint. Now, in terms of the features of the mattress, these are the things that can be better or worse, but may or may not be a priority for you personally. We've already talked about the dual comfort aspect of this, the ability to create different comfort levels on each side of the mattress, and that's obviously of great benefit for couples that have different needs and different preferences. And we've also talked about the adjustable aspect of the comfort, the ability to just minute to minute, day to day, month to month, make adjustments. And we do know that people's needs and preferences change over time, whether it's due to an injury that you may go through, or a pregnancy, or even other just changes. We know that people's bodies change and their needs change as well, and this does accommodate that. In terms of some of the other ones, I can just run through briefly. For one thing, we tested this on an adjustable base, and I have to admit I was really impressed with how well this conformed to the adjustable base. And that has to do with, I think, the 5 inches of latex being a really important factor there. That 5 inches of latex being on top of the air chambers really helped smooth it out. I would recommend, if you intend to use this on an adjustable base, don't do it on the absolute firmest setting. We tested it at 30 and it worked fine. And that was with me on the mattress as well. But overall, I was surprised and impressed at how well it worked. Another feature that surely deserves mention here is the use of natural materials in this mattress. Obviously, the organic cotton in the cover, both on the top panel and the side panels, the organic latex below that. Then you have obviously just nothing but the air chambers and springs beyond that. So really just a high amount of natural materials and really very little, if any, kind of chemicals to speak of in the manufacturing of this mattress. Another feature that we test is cooling. We know that a lot of people have a tendency to sleep hot, and so we make sure to test the ability for heat to effectively travel away from a heat source over the course of an 8-hour period. And in fact, this mattress also did well on that test. I would say that the cooling here is good, if not very good. And the explanation for that, of course, is multifold, but first and foremost, I would say that there is that latex layers obviously have a lot of opportunity for air to travel away. They have got those pin core holes, many of them, and that does provide a very effective mechanism for heat to escape your body and travel away from your body, rather than getting trapped up next to your body. And while we're on the subject of airflow, I also want to point out, I think, an important, maybe under-considered aspect of the design here, which is that one of the complaints that if you look around on the internet, or if you happen to own the largest review source for mattresses, you know that mold is something that happens in air mattresses. And the reason for that is that air chambers obviously have air in them, and sometimes the air in the chamber is not the same temperature or humidity level as the air outside of the chamber, and you have condensation. So that condensation can occur inside of your mattress on the air chamber. And when the air chamber is effectively surrounded by materials that trap that moisture, well, that moisture is just sitting in there for a while and mold can develop. And that's a real problem. You don't want to have mold in your mattress. So one of the great things about this mattress is the way it's designed. You've got air below and you've got airflow above. right? So you've got above the mattress, or sorry, above the air chamber, you've got all that latex with the pin core holes. Air, the moisture can escape the air chamber that way, but also the moisture can escape the other way, because below that you just have a layer of coils. So there's lots of air around the air chamber and no opportunity for moisture to get trapped up against it. Next, I want to spend a couple minutes on delivery, return policy, and warranty, because I do think that these are going to be important considerations for you as you consider buying a mattress online like this one, or over the phone as it may be. And with the case of delivery, this is a product that has free delivery, but it's going to come in 4 different boxes, and you would put it together yourself. So that's one option at least. They do also have a white glove delivery option, wherein they will assemble it for you in your bedroom and also remove not only the packaging and refuse, but also your old mattress, should you just choose to ask them to do that. But going back to the assembly, we did this ourselves. It took probably 20 minutes. I'd say it's not that hard. You do have pretty clear instructions. But for some people, if you're not really like a put it yourself together kind of a person, you probably are going to prefer to have somebody do it. If you're more of a I can do things myself kind of a person, I would say don't even worry, it's probably not going to be an issue, but you will need someone to help you with it. It's really kind of a 2-person job. That's the one thing to note. Now, in terms of returns, they have a very generous return policy. We're talking about 100 days. Basically, you can return the mattress within that window for any reason and get a full refund, and they will even come and pick it up from you. And lastly, let's talk about warranty. And I do have some interesting thoughts here, and it starts with what I view to be the durability of this product in the first place. If you've seen other reviews we've done, I always talk about the weakest link or links. That's always going to be the determinant of the longevity of your mattress, particularly if those weak links are up near the top of the mattress. Well, up at the top of this mattress, what do you have? You have 5 inches of latex. And latex is the most proven material in terms of its durability that is used in mattresses today. So I don't expect a lot of problems to come durability-wise from the top 5 inches of this mattress. Now below that, you have air chambers. Well, that's a real binary material. Some materials, they could wear down slowly. Most materials, in fact, used in mattresses will have gradual wear on them, where they will just slowly lose height and resilience. Well, air chambers, they lose height. It's only because they lost air and you reinflate them. And they won't lose resilience as well because, again, it's just a function of how much air is in them. So the only thing that can happen with an air chamber is it can either work as it's supposed to, or it could break. It develops a leak, or it pops, or whatever. It's binary. It's one or the other. And if it breaks, it's covered for 3 years under the warranty. And from that point forward, you can replace it at 50% off. And literally just open your mattress, pop in a new air chamber, and you're right back in business. And same thing is true for the electronics. They either work or they don't. And again, they're fully covered for the first 3 years. And after that, you get a replacement for 50% and you're back in business. All you're having to buy is that one component that broke and you're back in business. So there's none of this kind of like gradual wear when it comes to the air chambers, or for that matter, the electronics. Below that, you have springs, which again are a very proven material, and they're also in this case well down into the mattress. I really don't see those being a possible source of durability issue with this design. So just not a lot of weak links here, and on top of that, anything that could go wrong, you have a real solid sense of security through the warranty and the part replacement program that they offer. And one last thing I want to note that's related but not exactly part of the warranty is iSleep has an offer for all of their customers that during the first 20 years you own this product, at any point in time for any reason you could choose to buy a replacement, a new one, for half off of whatever the price is at that time. So when you combine that with what I just described in terms of the longevity of these materials and the ability to replace any materials or components that should have any problems down the line, I just think that there's a lot here that can give you comfort that this is a product that you can enjoy for many years to come. All right, now let's take a look at what's actually inside one of these iSleep Signature mattresses. And by the way, you'll see all of these things when the mattress comes to you, whether you're the one who assembles it or whether you choose the white glove delivery. But the obvious exterior thing to start with would be the organic cotton cover. So this is a cover made with USDA organic cotton, with a little bit of elastic in there as well, which does give it some definite stretchy characteristics, and obviously that helps with the conformance properties of the mattress. And this cover also has silver fibers that are actually there for antimicrobial benefits. And then directly below that cover, you have 2 layers of latex, a 2-inch layer and a 3-inch layer, and these are both certified organic latex. So latex does come from the rubber tree, so this is a very natural product. And you can see here the pin core holes. This is typical for latex to have these pin core holes, but they certainly do help with airflow in the mattress. And here's your second layer of latex. It feels just a little bit firmer to me maybe than the first layer. And the latex can also be customized depending on what your needs are, making it firmer or softer. What we have is more of a medium. But latex is a very proven, very durable material used in mattresses. And then right below that, you have the air chambers. This is very strong material, it feels like. It feels like canvas. I know it's not canvas. I think it's sort of like a vulcanized rubber type of thing, but it has sort of a cloth-like exterior to it, so you don't feel the rubber itself on the outside. And that air chamber is about 4.5 inches tall. So that basically you have 5 inches of latex, then you have a 4.5 inch air chamber, and then right below the air chamber, you have this layer of microcoils. And that's a 2.5 inch layer. I mean, they're almost too big to call them microcoils, to be honest. They're 2.5 inches, it's like they're half mini coils, if you will. And these work just like the pocket coils that you often have in the support layer of the mattress, except for the fact that in this case they sit underneath the air chamber, which really is more so your principal support layer. But certainly they work in tandem together to provide the support of this mattress. So that's really your entire construction. So the 2 support layers together, the mini coils plus the air chamber, equals 7 inches. That's your bottom 7 inches. And that is exactly the height of your edge foam perimeter, which is really the thing providing the edge support in this mattress. So that's a pretty straightforward construction. And then coming back to the cover, you have these side panels here, this kind of bucket that everything sits in. This also has an organic cotton outside panel, and then inside of it is quilted wool. So that's also just another natural aspect of this mattress. All right, now I just want to take a minute here to summarize some of the things that we've talked about in this video. Air mattresses are a unique type of mattress that pose a very intriguing design challenge, if you will. On the one hand, they have some inherent advantages that are great, most notably the ability to customize each side of the mattress to meet the needs of different sleepers on each side, as well as the ability to kind of personalize the comfort on a minute-to-minute basis with a controller that you can hold in your own hand. And yet they also have some inherent challenges as it relates to achieving proper spinal alignment and getting adequate pressure relief. And what I like about what iSleep has done here is they've really taken on the engineering challenge of trying to address those issues or those concerns while also making sure to deliver on those key advantages that an air mattress can provide. And they've done so in a way that also gives you the ability to have a mattress that uses tons of natural materials, should that be something that is appealing for you, and also happens to use 5 inches of latex, which is one of the highest quality, most premium materials used in mattresses today. And yet they've done all of that at a price point that is frankly very attractive relative to the price points you will see for other air mattresses out there. So all in all, I would say that if the features and characteristics that I've described in this video sound like a good match for you, then I certainly think the iSleep Signature mattress is one that you should consider. All right, so there you have it. I hope you found this to be a helpful introduction to the iSleep Signature mattress. For more information, whether about this mattress or any other mattress you may be considering, make sure to check out the links in the description of this video, which will take you to our website, goodbed.com, where you will find a wealth of information and answers to really any other question you may have about mattresses. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we really hope you sleep well.